In this video we'll be looking at creating a simple pan and zoom effect in KDEnlive. So first thing I'm going to do is bring up the KDEnlive window, and it takes a second or two to paint, and now we're in. So let's pull in our example clip by clicking on the Add Clip button here. Okay, we navigate down to our clip, and in fact it's in our default directory, so I can just click open and in it comes. So it's just a simple 15-second clip. I'm going to drag it down into my timeline here and then just shunt it across to the beginning. So it's a simple 15-second clip, as I said, and if I play it just to show you what it does, just shows me opening up Firefox and typing in www.lynaseum.com, which is obviously the URL of our website, and the website painting here. So just a very simple clip, and what we want to do with this clip is to zoom in on the command line there while the URL is being typed in, so the observer can see the URL a little bit better. So first of all, I am going to Control Home to go back to the beginning, and I am going to click on this tab called Effect List. Okay, so here's where KDEnlive keeps all its effects down here, both audio and visual. And if I scroll down, I will see this category called Crop and Scale. Double click that, it'll open up and show me two effects that are possible here. We're going to use a second of these, pan and zoom. So I click on that and I just drag and drop onto the clip that I want to apply that effect to. In this case we've only got the one clip, and unfortunately KDEnlive doesn't size the window properly for you, so you've got to click on this bar and drag it back. Okay, and this is the main window for manipulating the pan and zoom effect. So first thing I'm going to do is play the video to the point that I want it to start zooming in. So in we go, we start up Firefox, and at that point where we're actually just about to type there, in fact I'll just go back a couple of frames to there, that's the point where I want to start the zoom effect. So I'm going to click on this button here to add a new keyframe. Now we're not going to go into too much detail as to what a keyframe is, because we've already covered that in the animation by keyframe tutorial. But just as a recap, a keyframe is literally that. It is a point in the video which allows you to set various parameters at that particular point in the video. And you can set as many keyframes as you like. In this case we're going to set 4. So this is going to be our start point for the zoom effect. Then I'm just going to let the video run forward until I get to the point where I want the zoom effect to stop. There. Okay, so I just want a short period where it actually zooms in here. Again, I'm going to create a second keyframe. Okay, and you can see that the same values came in from this keyframe as to the previous one. Okay, so typical Cartesian X and Y here. So what we're saying is we're going to display this frame at point 0, 0 up here at the origin, and we're going to display it at size 1280 by 720, which is my screen resolution. So at this point we want that to be the original size, which is correct. That's what we want. And then at this frame we're going to change the size so there appears to be the illusion of a zooming in. So again, I'm going to let the video run on a bit, this time to the point at which I want the zoom effect to stop and to start zooming out. So I think that's about right. So we've typed in the URL there, so I'm going to create a third keyframe, and once more I'm going to let this run on to the point where I want the zoom out to finish. So again, I'm going to click on play. Okay, so at that point I just actually go back a couple of frames. Okay, I'm just using the arrow keys to go frame by frame back. I'm going to create a fourth keyframe. Okay, so Here we have 4 keyframes. In fact, we've got 5 because KDEnlive automatically puts a keyframe right at the very beginning of your clip. But actually, if we play the video back, you won't see any difference. Let's go to this keyframe. All we've done is just create some blank keyframes. Video will look entirely the same until we start manipulating some of these parameters. Okay, so let's start doing that. So at this point we want the zoom to start. Okay, so we want it to basically be in its original position at its original size. And that's fine, so we can leave these parameters as is. Incidentally, if we didn't put this keyframe in here and we just went straight to the zoom settings here, what you find is that straight from the beginning the zoom would begin. So we actually want a period where the screen is displayed at normal size, and then at this point we want KDEnlive to start the zoom, and then at this point we want the zoom to be completed. Okay, so we leave this first keyframe here at the normal size. We go to the next keyframe by clicking on this button here. At this stage we want to put in the new size. I'm going to leave the origin the same, I think, for the moment, and I'm just going to create a much bigger size here. So I can either type in the values here if I know it, or I can go over here and use these handles to enlarge or shrink down the image, and in fact use the hand to move the frame around. So if we click on this slider first, because it's taking up the whole of the screen here, this allows you to resize the image in this window. It's not very fine grained, so what I find works best is if you click on this icon and then use your mouse wheel, you can zoom out with a bit better resolution here. So I'm going to click on this handle and drag it out to make this screen bigger, and I think I'm going to do the same to the bottom one. Okay, so there we go. So it's not really very good, but then we can pick it up and move it around to the position we want it here. Okay, so we kind of want it in a corner here, but we want to see the top part of the screen. So yeah, that's probably about it. And then, so you can do it that way by manually sizing it here, kind of what you see is what you get method, or you can come back to the effect window here and you can manually type in the values. In fact, when I tried it earlier, I found a couple of values that I like, so I'm going to type those values in here: 3571, 2671. I just found these by manually moving it around in the first method that we use there, and then I just wrote them down so it was easy to remember. And there we go. So that's the position I want it to zoom to. So if we just quickly go back here, so it's going to go, we're going to see the screen at this point, and then between this point and this point it's going to move from this resolution down to this. So it's going to look like it zooms straight in on that URL line. So over this period, when we let that video run, what we want is that zoom to hold in at that same level here. So if we go to the next keyframe, of course, it's back at the normal resolution, so we need to type in basically exactly the same parameters that we had in this keyframe here, in keyframe 2, in keyframe 3. Otherwise we'll see another zoom or change in the screen that we don't actually want to see. So if I can remember the parameters, they were 317 and 3751, 3751, no, 3571. That's it. Okay, so hopefully if I switch quickly between those two, you shouldn't see any change in the size of the image between those two. Okay, so we've basically got the zoom to occur in to this point of the keyframe, then we've got the zoom to hold at the same level across here. Now what we want to do between keyframe 3 and keyframe 4 is to zoom back out again. So again, we're going to click this icon to go to the next icon, and actually what it's done is it's remembered when we created the keyframe, it's remembered the original coordinates, so we don't actually have to set those again. So that's the reason that I created them all 4 of them up front, so they remember the parameters. So If we go down here into the timeline again, I'll do a Control Home to go back to the beginning. Actually, I'll just pull that in a little bit so you can see, and start it off. Now what you can see is when we play the video, it zooms in on the URL line. We see the entry of the website address, and then we zoom back out again. So that's a simple zoom in and zoom out effect. So to pan, a pan is very much like a zoom effect, only it's just a movement from left to right. So if we're going to go back into our editing here of this effect, so you can see at this point when we first zoom in here, our x coordinate is 0, and if we go to the next keyframe, it's still 0 here. So what that means is there is no movement left to right between these two keyframes. So say now we want the action to pan to the right. What I'm going to do is make it the x coordinate a -1. In this case it's going to be -1000, so it's going to move across quite a way. So if we go back here, you'll see that it starts off in the 0 position, and if we go to the next one, we'll see that it's now moved across on the URL. So if I click back down here, go back to the beginning again, and play it now, you should see we start Firefox off, we zoom in, but now we pan to the right before we zoom back out again. And that's all there is to a simple pan and zoom effect in KDEnlive. Thanks for watching.